Good morning and welcome back. It's Tuesday. And hell, I think it's the first time Jason and I have done a show in the new year. It's Tuesday, which means it's time to talk recruiting. Jason, you are down in beautiful San Antonio right now. How's that room for you?
Dude, the room is awesome. The weather sucks, but the room is awesome. I'm at the what is it? Hotel Contessa or something like that. It's like a one-bedroom apartment on where it's badass. I
Oh,
got my
nice.
own room and like a can't see it, but a full-on living room behind me. Yeah, so the room's awesome. The weather sucks, but I'm down in San Antonio for the Navy All-American Bowl.
So tell us about that, Jason, because we got some recruiting things and things like that to get up to. But I know you do this All American Bowl. You've done it for a number of
20
years.
something years, yeah.
Yeah, always down in San Antonio. Back in the day, Jason, this used to be a time where kids would actually announce what schools they were attending, right? Do they even do that anymore?
Not really. But you know what they did this year? Yeah, it used to be you'd have guys who would announce their commitments. It was a big deal. You may have one or two, guys who they probably signed in December, but they're going to announce at the game, and they've already been committed for a couple of weeks, but privately. But what they did this year for this game and the Under Armour game were they actually invited underclassmen. So you've got some juniors
Oh,
that are at the game this year. So that kind of,
really?
yeah. So that adds some of the appeal to this game from a recruiting perspective. Otherwise, everybody here is already committed. They're already signed. They're fixing to play in this game and then enroll at the school of their choice in a
Uh,
week or two. So there's not a lot of sexy news from this game. But now you got some juniors, some top underclassmen juniors here that are competing. Hey, speaking of that, I'm going to just tell you, and you and I haven't even talked. My phone is blowing up. Okay, so
okay.
I am down here at San Antonio. Now let me tell you how this works. So they have an East team and a West team, right? One team practices in the Alamo Dome, while the other team has to practice outside in 30-degree weather, and then they flip flop. Yeah, they flip flop. So
Okay.
today the West team is outside, the East team is at the Alamo Dome. So I'm like, I'm going to watch the East team indoors at the Alamo Dome, right?
Of course.
Well, no, my buddy Jason Howell, literally, as I'm coming on the air, just texted me. He's like, hey, dude, I'm going to go to the West practice. I just picked up your credential. I'll have it out at the West practice. I'm like, you
No.
dumbass. I got to want to go to the West practice today. So now I'll be standing outside until in the 30-degree weather until 3 in the afternoon today because I have to go to the West
Man,
practice
I
to get my credential.
I tell I tell Jason, I tell how you got to come to my hotel and drop it off, man.
Oh, dude, I just want to show up at the East practice anyways and be like, I've been covering this game for 20 years. You guys should know me now. Just let me in. I don't have my credential, but come on, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, idiot.
So Jason, well, it's kind of interesting. It's funny you said there's two things that you said about that kind of piqued my interest because one, I want to know about any Longhorn connections that are there, but two, when you start thinking about early enrollees, because for instance, Texas already has two kids in the 2025 class already participating
Three,
in
three on
practice.
Mark, and one of
Three.
them, Michael Terry was supposed to play. I'm sorry to cut you off, but Michael Terry was supposed to play in this
Yeah.
game, and he is no longer playing in
Mm.
this game because he's practicing with the Texas football team.
So it's Michael Terry, Justice Terry, and then who's the other guy?
Oh my gosh, the defensive lineman out of Texarkana.
Oh,
You have to help me. I'm
yes,
having a brain fart too, but yeah. So
yes, big, tall.
this brother plays at
Yeah,
Arkansas.
defensive end.
Why am I having a problem pulling up his name? But
Yeah.
anyways,
Oh,
there's three of them.
anyway,
Yeah,
that
that
guy.
guy. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're right because I've seen him at practice. He is, I mean, he is huge. By the way, I'm that kind of person that it will just bother me until I figure it out who it is. So let me look it up because I'm sure someone's in the chat like, damn it, you idiots.
Oh my God, I can't even think of his brother's name. I'm like having a mental.
Lance
Lance Jackson.
Jackson.
I almost said Landon, but Lance Jackson. Yes, thank you. I
Lance
always
Jackson,
get
he's out
Lance
there
and
too.
Landon to this day mixed up. So, but Lance Jackson. Yes.
So honestly, Jason, I mean, for whatever it's worth, it sounds like it would make more sense for this game to be a junior game
Yeah.
as opposed to a senior game going forward. I mean, I know it's forward thinking, but it would make more sense for, with all these kids who want to early enroll, the majority of them in January, it would really make more sense that this becomes a junior all-star game and you probably get more out of it. I'm quite honest with you. I mean, again, you don't run this, right? But they would probably get more out of it because most of these guys are already committed, so they can't tell you anything about the schools. Or I mean, when are you going to tell me why I went to the school? I told school. It seems like it would be. I know they could do it for the star rankings and things to that effect, but I just think going forward, just my opinion, should be a junior all-star game going into your senior year.
From a reporter perspective, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But for seniors, it's a big moment for them as a senior right before they go off to college. As you said, you can still talk to them, and sometimes you'll get some backstories from these guys that you didn't get when they were recruits because they didn't want to talk about it. But now you can say, okay, you're already signed, you're committed, it's out there. Like, let's talk about it. Did you really visit this school, or what schools were really recruiting you, or how close were you to flipping your commitments? So you can get some backstories like that. But you're right, Omar, from a kind of a news perspective, there's not a lot. I mean, let's be honest. Those guys that just signed in December, I don't want to say they're afterthoughts, but they're kind of afterthoughts, right? We got a football game on Friday. Someone said on Orange Bloods last week, they go, these games have kind of become dinosaurs. This game and the Under Armour All-American game.
Yes.
I said, okay, I get it to some degree, but there's still a showcase for these players. As you said, they can still impact their rankings. They can still go out there and play well or not well and impact the rankings. But both the Under Armour game and the Navy All-American game, the one I'm at, now that they've opened it up to juniors, it makes it a little bit more appealing and a little bit more enticing to come down and cover these games. But you're right. I mean, hey, give me 2026 and 2027 recruits. I'd rather be talking to those guys now. Give me Booby Feaster down here. Just a 2027 recruit versus a guy that's already signed.
Imagine we're going to talk about KJ Edwards in a second. Like, let's see KJ Edwards versus some guys. And then I think that shapes it going into their senior year. Like, where are these guys stacks on and so forth? Just some forward thinking. But are there any guys from a Texas perspective who are going to be participating in this game this week, Jason, that you've got your eye on that you're trying to track down?
Yeah, there's a few commitments. Jamie French is on the East team, who I will not be seeing today. Thank you, Jason. Dumbass. Kalik Lockett is on the West team. Cade Phillips is on the West team, the Texas safety or our cornerback safety signee. A guy that I'm really excited to see. I think Cade Phillips is going to improve his rivals ranking. I predicted that in my 3-2-1 this morning. Dalen McCutcheon, another wide receiver commitment, will be there. But, like you said, more than those guys, there are some 2026 guys. Tyler Atkinson is a linebacker out of Georgia, one of the best players in the country. He'll be at the game. Bryce Perry Wright is a defensive lineman that Texas is recruiting, 2026 guy. Jamarian Carlton out of Temple is a defensive end, one of the best players in the country. He'll be here. And Jordan Clay is a wide receiver. I love Jordan Clay's story. He's a San Antonio guy. So he's right here in San Antonio. He's a wide receiver in the 2026 class. He'll be here today. So I'll get to see some of those guys. So I'll get to see I think it's 4 now Texas commitments, but I'll get to also see a handful of Texas targets in the 2026 class.
Real quick, because Tom G put up a super chat, so let me go ahead and make sure I show it. I was on a Sirius XM this morning, Jason. So Tom G says you were great on D&D this morning. No one can get to your place with the bad weather for the slight lean. Always, I said that. No, you're good, Jason. I said that they asked me at the very end. And Jason, the one thing I hate percentages because of catch, and I hate doing predictions for the most part, even though my predictions have been pretty good. So they asked me at the end, who you leaning to as far as winning the game? I'm like, damn it, man, it's Tuesday. I don't want to do this. Hold on, you muted yourself, Jason.
So wait till our prize pick show. We don't want to do that on Tuesday, right?
No, yeah. So I had to go with a slight lean to OSU, but what I said was, man, I don't want anyone showing up at my house. And so he goes, hey, with this bad weather, show up at your house. Which, by the way, I'm not feeling good about having to go to Dallas or driving home from there, by the way, just so we're clear. So appreciate you, Tom.
When are you going
Thank
up there?
You for,
are you going up on the day of the game, or are you going up?
I'm going up tomorrow. I'm supposed to go up tomorrow.
Okay.
The bad part though is like I need to be back here on Thursday. I have some personal stuff that I need to attend to on Friday morning. And so I gotta head out of there. So I don't know how the hell I'm gonna do this. I gotta leave on Thursday. So I drive out to Snow, come here to Austin and hit the icy, rainy weather here, then drive back to Snow. All in my 2013 Ford that's paid for by God about almost 200,000 miles. So wish me luck on that one. Jason, real quick from Retmore wants to know who are the early enrollees of this 2025 class? Isn't it damn near everybody?
It literally is all but like 3 or 4 guys. I'm trying to think of the guys that are not. I think Jonathan Cunningham is not. I believe Nick Townsend is definitely not, and there's like maybe one other one. I can't read the name. I'm sorry, my screen's so small here. Yeah, I can't read the other one, but there's only like 3 that are not early enrollees, and those are a couple of them. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be kind of major. So real quick, before we get into the meat of everything, what's the format for you down there in San Antonio this week, Jason? What does it look like, and when's the day of the game? Just for those who are interested.
With Texas having a game on Friday, it's really thrown a wrench into my schedule. Normally, I'm down here all week, okay, and the game's always on Saturday, and it is this week. It's on Saturday at noon. So normally I stay down here all week and just go to practices, and there's a combine on Friday. And then usually, honestly, my wife comes down. We make a weekend out of it. We enjoy a nice weekend in San Antonio. Well, this week, with there being a game, it's a little different. I'm going to be here today. I'll be here through Thursday. So I'm going to go to practices today, Wednesday, and Thursday. And let's be honest, 3 days of watching these guys practice is more than enough. And then I'll come home, cover the game on Friday with you all, and do the post-game show on Friday. And I thought about coming back for the game on Saturday, but I'm like, probably not at this point. I'll probably just watch the game on television and have my thoughts on the game when you and I talk probably next week. So I'll be down here today. I actually came down last night. So I came down last night, be here through Thursday, go home, and then the game is on Saturday at noon. I'll probably just wind up watching the game on TV at this point.
By the way, just Jason, is this the event where Kelvin Banks lost his 5th star?
That was the Under Armour game. Yeah, that was the Under Armour game in Orlando. And back in the day, when I say back in the day, it's like 3-4 years ago, I used to go to the Under Armour game and this game. Okay, so I'd like fly down to Orlando for like 3 or 4 days, fly back. I'm home for like a day. Boom, I drive down to San Antonio. But as you kind of alluded to earlier, the absolute necessity of being at these games isn't kind of what it used to be. And now you got the portal going on. You got college football playoffs. So I kind of got to pick my battles here a little bit. Like, okay, I can't be at all these places at once. So, but yeah, that was the Under Armour game down in Orlando. And I'll be honest, I shouldn't even admit this. Boy, this is terrible. And Barb's, hey, what's up, Barb's? Like I saw Kelvin Banks down at the Under Armour game at the practices. He was good in the game, but I saw him down at the practices. He wasn't good. Now, they moved him to right tackle because they had an injury or something, so they had to move him from left tackle to right tackle. So when Rivals dropped him, and listen, Rivals still had him like a top 50 player. It's not like he fell off a cliff in the rankings, but I should not admit this, but I kind of was like, okay, I kind of get it because he wasn't very good at the Under Armour game. Now he's going to be a top 10 draft pick, top 5. He's going to be so all the Texas fans are right. Yes.
Yeah, it may be whoever the hell was coaching just didn't know what the hell they were doing. How about that?
Yeah. Well, and imagine you played left tackle your whole high school career, and they're like, hey, we need you to flip everything mentally. We're going to throw you on the right side against the best competition in the country. So you can understand why he struggled a little bit in practices, and it took him a few days to get his footing.
Barb said, hey, he stayed at that hotel last summer that you're at. Best ribeye I've ever had at the Ambler downstairs. I meant it the other day. Picked the playoff game, and I've got you both for a watch party and dinner at TCH Social. Well, I've got to be at the game, but Jason, Barb's is willing to comp you when you go out there on Friday.
Well, Barb's, I appreciate it. Two things. Ribeye is my favorite steak, maybe my favorite meal ever. So I did see the Ambler downstairs, so maybe I'll go there tonight for dinner. Two things. Texas Carthouse counts my meal anyways, Barb's. So I appreciate it, but I'll meet you there, Barb's, maybe for the Super Bowl or something. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so he can make it up. So he can maybe can make it
you
up.
You and Anwar and I need to go there for like March Madness or something. Oh, know, March Madness at TCH Social would be awesome because they've got all those screens right in front of you. Boom, there we go. Yeah.
And they start the games at 11 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, we could just start getting hammered on that Thursday.
Yeah. We don't have to cover basketball on, right?
Exactly. Like, this is perfect for us. So, all right, Barb's, take it up. Don't forget us. We will definitely cash that in. I will take you up on that. Jason, we move forward. I mean, it never stops here. It's just, you put the ribbon and bow on one recruiting class, and another week later, it's like, so tell us about 2026. But one of the guys that Texas is eye on is the Carthage running back of KJ Edwards. We all know he is a freaking stud. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's early. It's January. But, hell, guys started forming top 15 lists around this time, top 20 lists, and cut it down every single month. Tell us, it's early, no, but tell us a little bit about KJ Edwards. Tell everybody, one, why he's important, what makes him so good, and then maybe about from a Texas perspective.
State champion for KJ Edwards from Carthage, offensive MVP of the state championship game. He's a guy that Texas has been on for a while. I think every time I turn around when Texas has a recruiting event, KJ Edwards is there. So Rivals has him. Let me double check this as I switch tabs here. So number 33 nationally. So he's up there. I don't know where everybody else has him ranked. He's a borderline 5-star type prospect for Rivals.com. KJ Edwards and Javian Osborne are the two main in-state running backs that Texas is targeting. I think Texas is in a really good spot with both of them. I talked to KJ last week. First off, you hear me say it all the time, but just a great kid. Okay, he's an easy kid to root for. I love KJ Edwards. Love talking to him. But he is one of their top, I'd say two. I'd say him and Javian Osborne running back targets for the 2026 class. And I think Texas is in a really good spot for him, Anwar. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch right now to say that Texas is the team to beat. KJ, he doesn't have any junior days scheduled. I mean, Texas hasn't even formally announced a junior day yet, but he did say, hey, I want to get to Texas and Texas A&M sometime in January. These schools are going to start having junior days, mid to late January. The very first weekend of February is also a possibility because that's an open weekend in terms of the dead period. But then after that first weekend, the rest of the month of February is a dead period. So I look for KJ Edwards to visit Texas probably the last week of January, possibly the first week of February. Some of that depends on what happens on Friday with Texas at the Cotton Bowl. But, yeah, big-time player, big-time running back. He's a guy that Texas has been on for a long time. He really likes Texas. And I'll tell you why I think KJ in Texas makes sense. Nobody in college football that I can think of, regardless of position coach, does a better job of developing relationships than Tashard Choice. I mean, he's phenomenal at that. He's phenomenal at everything. Okay. But Tashard Choice when he brings those guys in, you ask any running back that's come through his room, those dudes will fight for that guy. They will walk through fire for Tashard Choice. KJ Edwards told me, he said, hey, the biggest thing for me, it's not playing time. It's not staying close to home. It's relationships. Well, nobody does a better job at building relationships than Tashard Choice. So I think Texas is in a really good spot for KJ Edwards.
It's interesting because it looks like he took a visit. When I looked at that Rivals list, was he here couldn't have been a junior day, right? It said June. So did they have like a pool party or something in June? Was that when he was here?
That would have been like their elite camp. And listen, that probably needs to be updated. I need to call KJ because he's been here a lot more than just that one thing. In fact, I was at maybe it was a Georgia game. I don't know. One of these games where I was hanging out around the stadium, just kind of stalking recruits, if you will. And KJ Edwards walked by, and KJ's nice enough. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" and came up and said hello to me. So, yeah, he's been there. He was there for June. I think that Almer would have been maybe their elite camp. I'm trying to think early June, but he's been there probably for pool party and I know he's been there for games and things too.
I mean, Jason, this is a guy with KJ. You know, as I was looking through your report, I mean, you're saying he rushed for 1,800 yards last season, you know, roughly. Also an offensive MVP in the state championship game. I mean, this guy is, you know, is probably is he the best running back in the state? Would you say going into his senior season, or is he like top 2 or 3? Like, where does he rank on your rankings?
You know, KJ, I'm trying to think how to compare him to. He's a smaller back. You know, he honestly reminds me of a little bit, is a bit of Trey Wisner, right? I mean, he's that kind of player. He's elusive. He gets in the open field like, hey, he's gone. But, you know, it's a deep running back group. I mentioned Javion Osborne. Tredarian Ball, who's committed to Oregon, is very highly rated too. So, you know, I don't know if I'd put KJ as the best back because, you know, it's early and we'll see what these guys do over the next 12-ish months. And I'll see him at camps. Actually, I already started planning my spring. Under Armour has their first camp up in Dallas in February. So I'm already starting to get my mindset on going to see these guys at camps. But he's got a chance to be the top back in the state. But there will be 2 or 3 backs, maybe 4 backs from the state of Texas this year that are bona fide rivals 100, maybe even in the conversation for 5-star status.
What do you think, Jason, going into, you know, the recruiting of running backs? I'm just kind of curious. You know, again, we'll see what Texas does, if they do anything in the transfer portal or anything like that. But, you know, this year, you're going to have C.J. Baxter coming off of injury. You're going to have Christian Clark, who's coming off of injury. You know, Jarek Gibson really hasn't been able to get into the mix as far as the running back is concerned. He's still a freshman. Obviously, there's no need to overreact or panic as relates to that. The running game has kind of been up and down, you know, sometimes. I mean, the Clemson game, you're like, oh, my God. They can't be stopped, you know, but then you get Arizona State, you get Georgia in between, and, you know, you're like, I don't know what to think or expect. What are your thoughts on how important the running back position will be for the 2026 class?
Yeah, you know, it's a good question. They took 2 guys in 2025, right? James Simon and Ricky Stewart. And I think both are really good players, but they weren't the elite of the elites in terms of their rankings. You know, and I know Tashard Choice and Sark would say we don't care about rankings, but well, to some degree you do. You know, the 5 stars are 5 stars for a reason, right?
Correct.
So I think they'll take a couple guys this year. I think they'll take probably 2 guys again this year. And you said you've got a couple guys coming off injury. You don't know how they're going to respond to those injuries. You don't know if they're ever going to be the same. I mean, these are young dudes. You assume they're going to bounce back and be healthy and be what they once were, but you just don't know. You know, your running backs, who your main 2 contributors this year, are going to be upperclassmen next year. So yeah, I think they'll take 2. I mean, I think running back will be a big position of need this year. And you mentioned it. You got some young guys, including Jarek Gibson. When Jarek Gibson didn't play a lot, but he played in more short yardage type situations. So he's kind of started to carve out that role. Can he be an every down back for you moving forward? You know, we'll see. But yeah, I think Texas, I look for them to bring in a couple running backs this year. I think it'll be a position of need. I think they'll bring in at least 2 or probably 2 again next year.
I know you're up against the clock, Jason. I know you only got about 5 more minutes. Let me get Jay Lee's super chat here. And he says seems like a deep state of Texas class for the 2026 cycle. 24/7 has 5 Texas kids in the composite top 25 going into that 2026 class. How many of these guys do you think from this state are going to be, you know, top, I don't know, 50 in the country, 25 in the country, whatever you think? You think this is a good year for the state of Texas as relates to recruiting? And of course, if it is, that also obviously puts a lot more pressure on Texas to kind of close those walls and keep some teams out.
That's funny. I don't, again, and I'm just saying, I don't pay attention to other people's rankings and whatever. So, but Texas 24/7 said has 5 in the composite top 25. I don't see it that way. And I know Ketch did his rankings recently, a couple weeks ago. It was right around Christmas. And he said the same thing. He goes, it's just not a super deep year in terms of Texas talent. Now, to put, I say I don't pay attention to rankings and those things vary so much. I just pulled up as you were reading that the Rivals 100 for next year. Mm-hmm. There's one player from Texas in the top 25, and it's number 24. Yeah, Keyshawn Henderson, who's committed to Houston, of all places. Then you got John Turntine at 31, KJ Edwards we talked about at 33, Tredarian Ball committed to Oregon we talked about at 36, Tank King is a linebacker at 44. And London Smith at number 48. So I think there's only 5 in the top 50. So again, we're just, I say we meaning me, and I don't do the rankings, but I'm down here in San Antonio. Adam Gorney's down here. There'll be some Rivals regional guys. This is where we really start kind of sinking our teeth into these underclassmen. We'll get to see them at the practices, the combine. So those rankings are going to change a lot. I think you'll see some guys from Texas elevate their ranking, but no, I don't view it, Jay. I don't view it as a super deep year in the state of Texas. Now, there are some position groups like offensive line. It's a really good top-heavy offensive line, but overall, I don't think it's a tremendously deep year in terms of top-end talent in the state of Texas like we've seen in the past.
Last thing, Jason, to let you get out of here, kind of from a transfer portal perspective, obviously we know Texas is got Travis Shaw, who's coming in, a defensive tackle. Can never get enough big bodies when it's all said and done. So just your thoughts on him and anything you've heard about that. And by the way, Jay Lee said he meant to say 2027.
2027 is top heavy. Again, I haven't really sunk my teeth into those guys yet, but there are some bona fide 5-star guys in that 20. We talked about Booby Feaster. Everybody loves Booby. Booby will be the headliner of that group. But 2027 is more top heavy. Jay, you're right. So.
Travis Shaw, before you get out of here, Jason, just your thoughts on them, the recent transfer portal audition.
Yeah, before I pick up my credential and then go freeze my ass off. Thank you, Jason Halbetter, buy me dinner, that prick.
Before you have to drive out the shirts to get your credential.
Yeah, instead of being in the Alamo Dome, I'm going to be out at Trinity University freezing my ass off. Thanks
God.
Yeah, Travis Shaw is, they picked him up from North Carolina. I'll be honest, Elmer, I didn't know much about the guy. So I called a couple of North Carolina reporters and inquired about him and said, hey, what can you tell me about this guy? And I wrote about him in my 3-2-1. They all said that he was a 5-star player coming out of high school. I think maybe the highest rated player that Carolina's ever signed, depending on what rankings you're looking at. But they all said, like, hey, this guy has first round NFL talent, but he hasn't come close to realizing that. He came in dramatically overweight and out of shape at North Carolina. They said, hey, I know what they listed him at, but the people I talked to said he was close to 400 pounds. He was out of shape. But this last year, coming into last year, which was his 3rd year at Carolina, he really rededicated himself, got himself in better shape. He got down to 330 pounds. And they said it was his best year by far. They said if he can stay focused and if Texas can keep him focused on the task at hand, this guy will be a starter and, potentially all conference type player for Texas. And he'll be playing on Sundays someday. But he's a guy that it's a very high ceiling, a very low floor, right? Because he's kind of been all over the map at North Carolina. Now, one person said, there's been talk of the NCAA adding a 5th year of eligibility. If that happens, they said, hey, he'd be really wise, they thought, to spend 2 years in college, 2 years at Texas, kind of developing and getting his stock back up. But really good player. He's had some off-field issues, not just with his weight, but some other issues. So, he just needs to come to Texas, be focused. Now, the good news is people I talked to said they think that switch is kind of flipped a little bit where he maybe is maturing a little bit. He realizes the opportunities that are in front of him, so he is starting to get more focused. That's where you saw him lose the weight. That's where you saw him play pretty well last year. So I think it's an intriguing pickup for Texas. Am I going to say, hey, he's going to come in and be an all-conference player? No, I'm not going to say that necessarily, but he has that kind of potential if he keeps his head down and does the work. So I think it's a nice pickup by Texas. We'll just have to see how the next, 8, 9 months, 10, I guess 12 months unfold.
The thing, Jason, that we know is that if you don't buy into the culture and the things that Sark is doing here, you won't last long.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that you can, at least if Texas takes that risk, you'll get flushed out. We've seen it happen, especially not just a Jonte Cook thing, a Jai Hall kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've seen it. If you don't buy in, you'll find your way out of here.
So I think that was interesting. I mean, you mentioned that, the staff had to do their due diligence, right? So they've done their background. They've talked to the guy. They met with the guy you visited last week. You went to dinner with the coaches and, spent time around them. So they obviously saw enough from him where they think, okay, this guy fits our culture. But I mean, it's a little bit of a risk based on the things I've heard in terms of his pattern at North Carolina. But again, I mean, I don't want to drag the guy through the mud. The thing that I was told is that people that covered him and not talked to him because he was never made it available to the media, not once more in North Carolina. They never made him available. But the guys that covered him at North Carolina do think he's kind of realized, hey, I've got to kind of stay focused on the task at hand, and they think he's kind of turned the corner there. So hopefully for Texas' sake, for his sake, hopefully that's true.
All right, Jason, I'm going to get out of here with you as well because I got a show at 10 o'clock. I know you've got to go to New Braunfels to go pick up your credentials. So, Jason Sugamel, thank you as always. I'll be back here.